Hey, what's up guys? It's been a while, and recently I've been studying on Go language for a couple months already, and lately I just look at the framework, the popular framework called Gene, and I look at some source code, and on today's video I want to share you the source code of Gene framework, and on this video we are mainly going to cover some workflow in the Gene. The workflow mainly is like how we register our path, like our API, and what's the workflow going to be for request and response. Okay, if we're going to look at the code, if we pull the code from GitHub, and you can see this file structure, and we are not going to go through all of them, and mainly because we are only going to focus some workflow, like main workflow, and we are on version 1.10. Okay, and this is the starter for to start the Gene engine, Gene app, and we initial an app, and we register our path, and we have a callback function, and here on this line we listen to the server, listen on server. Okay, so let's go through like line by line, and we want to know what exactly happened behind the scene, like what exactly happened when we call default function, and what's going to happen behind the scene for if we call a get method, and what happened when we call a return method. Okay, let's do it. Okay, first of all, let's see this line. We have a Gene package which is imported here, and we call a method called default. Let's say what does default do? Okay, we're going to the default. We are on the file of gene.go. So on default method, it takes some params. It's optional, and we initial engine, and we call a use method. Use method from engine. We pass in some methods. This is we call middleware, and we are not gonna really focus on that on this video. Okay, let's see. We've got a new here, new method. What does new method do here? So on new method, so it create an instance of engine, and this engine that covers router group, and this is we are not gonna focus on that, and we're gonna cover a tree, method tree, which is we're gonna store like methods, a path, and handler in here, and for the router we just mainly to restore our API here, then like path, and so this is two main thing in the engine, and that's the router group and the tree, and another thing I want you to focus is like we also have a pool here that store the context. So basically, well, let's see, like on engine we have a method called allocate context. Let's see what does it do. So you can see on the context, create a slice, and the context it create an instance of the context. So as we can see, there's three main thing in engine. We have context, we have router group, we have tree. So let's write down, just get a file. We have engine, router group, context, and tree. Just write down here for now. Okay, let me see. We have engine. So basically that default, as we know, that default method called it basically it initiate an engine, and that engine that come with these three main things like contact group, context, and the tree. Okay. Let's take it next line. Next line is this engine, right? Engine called a method called get, and this get method has two params. It's taking a string. You take a look at that. Take a path as a string type, and the handler. Taking the handler is like a, and here we pass it like a callback. Let's see. So let's see what's the workflow of the register API. So let's clicking get method. So to register API of method of get, what does it do? Get. So get method is part of the group struct. And let's take a look at the group. Group is part of engine, as we can see here. Router group. Router, it comes with the handler, base path, engine, and the route. Okay. So we're gonna get get method. Let's say it call a handler method from group. So in the handler method, we pass in the method and the related path and the handler. So method gonna be get, and the relative path gonna be the one we have passing like hello, and the handler does this function here. So they're gonna work out the absolute path, and they're gonna combine our handler and the other handler that already exists, which is the middleware that we have mentioned earlier in the engine. Let's see if I can find out for you again, just to quick remind. Like when we new engine, right? We call the function called use, and we pass in logger and recover. These two are they are middlewares and they are handler too. So basically, and basically on handler. So basically they combine all handler together. Okay, so we got all handler and then we got path. The absolute path, we're gonna pass these two params to a method called add group from engine. Let's say, what does it do on router? So we have here a method, we have path, we have handlers. So we pass all of them to router. Let's see what's happening in add router method. So here we passing three params, and they do checks and checks. So we call an engine. There's a data called trees, as we have this is part of the engine, as we mark it down here. That's part of the engine that stores path and the handler in the tree and the methods. So basically they have different methods like get, post, delete, etc. Right? And under each method they come with the like what path, like path and the handlers. Like this. So let's go back to the code. So it's tree, so it's gonna get the method. They check if method exists. If it doesn't, so we're gonna create a new method. Create a new method and add it to the tree. Yeah, when we have new method, and we add our path and handler to this method. So on the root, as you can see, let's see the type of root. Root is type of node, and if we go back to tree, let me see if we can find out the data type of trees. Let's say trees that here is the slice. Slice that come with the method trees. Method tree is a struct that with the root. That's the data type of node that store the path, that store the handlers. We're gonna pass our path and the handler here. And then pass the methods here. So in tree, you have kind of like two levels. You have tree, you have method, and then you have root. Root that store path and handlers. Okay, let's go back to the code. We were talking about add route. So we add route. We create a method if method is not exist, and we add the path and the handler under the method, and then they do like an edge check, like if user have counter like max param, and if we like that they just do extra check. It read down on this block of code. It really down to like how you config when you create engine. So let's do a bit summary. Like when we call a get method, we register our path and our callback function as a handler, and we put that in a tree with the method as well. So this is how we register our API. So our next step I want to do, so I'm gonna mark it down here. So workflow of define a router. We use get method and a get method that calls handler, and a handler that calls addRoute method from engine to store our method and our path and our handler to tree. Okay, on next I want to, once we have registered router, we want to request. So what's the workflow for request? Let me see. Okay, we have done this part. Let's for next line. Okay, when we listen to the server, okay, we call a function called run. That's part of engine. Let's take a look. So we have the run method that passing address. Now here we're passing like a port, and they got check default, and they got check a resolved address, find out the address, and listen to the address. And like when client hit this address, we're gonna call this method handler that's method from engine. Let's see what does handler do. So in handler, there is like basically they initiate the return engine that we have created, or we can do the HTTPS. Basically, they wrap HTTPS over engine. Okay, we just for the simple case. That simple case, we just think about we return engine here. So it's gonna be data type of, it has method of server HTTP. Let's see what does server HTTP do. HTTP, okay, HTTP, that's part of the engine method HTTP, server HTTP. So you're gonna receive writer and a request. Next line here, we're gonna get a context for every single request. We have a brand new context, which is gonna store user's request. So from pool, we get a context. If you still remember that when we create an engine, that we allocate a context, and we put that on the pool. Let me see if we can show you again. We're gonna go back to the code. We got a new here. We're gonna initiate engine. Can you see that we have a pool here? We have engine. We call the allocate context that return a context. That context assigned to the is in the pool. Okay, let's see. So server HTTP. So we get a context from pool, and we reset it because like this is context. Like if previous user use it, we're gonna recycle that back to the pool, and we reset it. Just make sure the context is clear, and we assign the user request to the request from context. Then we pass the context to handle HTTP request method from engine. So once that's done, we're gonna put the context back to pool. So what does exactly happen in the handle HTTP request method? Let's take a look. Okay, we are on here now, and we pass in the context. Context, I mean context that come with the all user request data. Gonna find out methods, the checks, and here. On here, we're gonna find our root of the tree for given HTTP method. If you remember that we have the tree that with the methods and the path and handler that we have registered when we register API. Okay, so basically on this line, we just like we're gonna find out the method. If we find out the root, and the root we're gonna find out the value. The value gonna be the handler. We're gonna check the handler. Okay, we're gonna check handler, and that's like if we have handler exist, we're gonna loop through handlers. So they use the method called next. Let's find out next. Next basically is a handler. It's gonna go through every single handler. This is starter. This is the beginning of the onion model. If you guys familiar with that, it's just like if like an array, right? If like an array, you're gonna if like a slice, you're gonna go through that and reverse back. On this video, we are not gonna dive into that. If you guys interested, I can make another video for onion model. So at the moment, you can think of this is next method next method basically just loop through handlers. So we're gonna loop through handlers, and the handler so far is include like 2 middleware and 1 this callback function that we have registered. Okay, so far so good. So make a quick summary for the flow of request flow. Let me just copy that. So request flow, so on client side, they call a function called run, listen to the server. And if you get a method, so actually it's gonna call handler. Handler that's gonna call server HTTP, and the handler HTTP request gonna request the user request, and that's gonna be looped through the handlers. Okay, so far so good. We have workflow of define a route, and workflow of requests. So next I want to do is like we're gonna do a workflow of response. Okay. So when we have go through the handlers, that eventually gonna go through here. So they're gonna call this method that belong to context. They have a method called JSON. Okay, I'll go for the file that we're on context file. JSON. Apart from JSON, you have many different methods to return different type of data. I can go YAML, XML, JSON, JSONP, etc. So eventually they're gonna call a method called render from context. Okay, let's say render take 2 param code, and the render interface that has 2 methods called render and the write content type. So they set the status, and they go check, and they're gonna call a render from render. Okay, so they're gonna call this method. Let's see if I can explain it. So JSON has a method called render. They're gonna call this render method, and that passing the writer, like request writer. Let me see if can. Oops. JSON. JSON. Yeah, JSON that calls render that calls another that calls render inside the render. They pass in the writer here, and here writer. They pass in a writer, and we can get data from JSON. So it's called, eventually it's gonna call write JSON method. So it calls, and on the JSON write JSON, it's gonna write like content type. They're gonna format data, and eventually they're gonna return the data back to client. It called the method write from a writer, from response writer. So we can make a conclusion here. So workflow of response gonna be like we call a JSON from context, and the context gonna render. and context gonna call render. So eventually it's gonna call a render from render. Okay, so far so good. That's the three things that we're gonna cover for today's video. Like many workflow, like we know how to define the router, and then we know what's going on behind the scene, and the request was like what exactly happening, like how what's the workflow gonna be like when client requests an API, and the workflow of respond then is like how server respond the data back to client. That's three things that we're gonna cover today. And there's another important thing is like a middleware. Is like if you guys familiar with Kawa, which is the framework of Node.js, they use the same model like on Onions, and it's very helpful to like to log users requests and log what's going on, like for all procedures, like a call from user and a call get back from server to user. Okay, it's pretty much for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If anything, if you want to know anything about this framework, or if you want to know more detail, please leave it on the comment. And okay, that's it for today. Thank you very much, guys. Have a good day.